Hi all. It is finally time to carry out the mains wiring upgrade on the Kenwood amplifier that I planned out earlier in the summer. Since the RAs at my college are notorious for being picky about perceived electrical hazards, I'm pretty sure they'll have something to say about the rather brittle, unpolarized, and unearthed cord on this unit. So I've gone and purchased a replacement. It's quite overkill for this amp's power consumption, using 14 gauge wires, and it's also almost 3 meters long, so it'll be perfect for even the most inconveniently placed power outlets in the dorm room. This video is going to be back in the style where I'll turn off the camera for a while, then check back in after some progress has been made, because there's a big mess of wires I need to undo to carry out this replacement, and if I just made it one continuous video and sped it up again, it would have to be so fast that you couldn't really tell what was happening. So that's about how this one's gonna go, and we'll check back once I've actually made progress. Got the old mains lead removed, and I'm working to get a new homemade strain relief put onto it, because the old strain relief lug actually broke apart. It was quite brittle, so it wasn't much use. And after I get this secured in, next up will be correcting this mess here. These white wires run at mains potential. These thinner yellow and blue wires are actually the speaker outputs, and they're all just shoved in right next to the mains wiring, so I don't like that. These little unpolarized, unearthed plug sockets, I'll just disconnect those. I have no need for them, and frankly, any device these days has a polarized plug that won't even fit, so they are unnecessary and just making it more complicated and more dangerous in here. And then, after that, this switch also has the ability to isolate the active and the neutral, so I have some extra wire. I'll just wire up so the switch does isolate the neutral as well when it's in the off position. After that, it goes straight into the transformer through the fuse, and no fuss. Wiring's a lot less cluttered now. Got these two plug sockets disconnected entirely. They're just going to fill the holes in the chassis. The speaker wires, the yellow, blue, and black bundle here, are going to be safely away from the mains. So before they were all tied in together and made me a bit uncomfortable about the insulation. I'm also going to be able to make use of this little earthing point here. In the previous configuration it was left disconnected, but now that I have a lead with a earth conductor, that's just going to be soldered in right there as soon as I finish this video update. Then I also decided to bypass the transformer tap changeover switch. This has an option of a 110, 120 volt mains or a 100 volt mains, which I think is Japanese. But since I'm not taking this unit to Japan anytime soon, I'm going to leave that tap unused, and simply connect directly from the switch into the red wire, which is the 110, 120 volt tap. Finally, I'm going to solder the neutral from the transformer onto the switch as well, and then run this wire up from the neutral on the mains lead, and therefore both active and neutral will be isolated when the switch turns off. Alright, the wiring is assembled and soldered together. There is a single blue wire that the schematic does not show. Originally, it was connected to one side of the mains input at one of the plug sockets at the back, but the schematic doesn't show any such blue wire to be connected there. So for now, I'll leave it just sort of floating up here and be careful not to touch it. And probably cap it off if it seems it isn't necessary for the amp to operate. I've ohmed out the whole setup. There aren't any shorts. When the switch is turned on, it shows the 15.5 ohms resistance of the transformer and all the wiring, but it seems to be in working order. So I'm now going to plug in my Variac and slowly bring this unit up to mains, and hopefully it works. Variac at 0. Variac on. And the amplifier is on. Just gonna slowly bring it up. Just to make sure that nothing bad is going to happen. Alright. We are up and running. 19.7 watts, 23.3 volt amps, which is about normal for this thing when running cold. The lamp is on. I'm now going to pull over my trusty meter. Not sure if the camera will be able to pick that up. Maybe if I turn the camera a little bit and prop the meter there, switch it to volt range, and I'm going to see if the supply rail of the amp is up at normal. Yes, it is. Ignore the negative sign. I simply clicked the leads on backwards, but yes, that is. It's maybe a little low, but I've only turned the Variac up to 110. That appears to be working. Now I'll pause this briefly and show the amp working with a signal source and one of my dummy speakers. Okay, got the speakers wired up to the Kenwood. It's got its new mains lead installed. Double checked everything. There was a small problem as I put it back together and tested it. It was exhibiting identical symptoms to the Marantz unit I looked at a few videos ago. Barely a whisper out of both channels, as if it had suddenly lost all the caps in the signal path, just dried up, not passing any signal. But I eventually tracked it down. The tape monitor switch was in the source position, but the contacts were still in the tape position. It's since decided to behave itself a bit better, so I'll eventually have to check that out again and make sure it's gonna keep behaving itself, but that was shorting the signal path to ground and looking for a tape signal that wasn't there. But it now is functional, it is happy. Plug it in and give it a test. Speakers did their little jump as expected. And let's see, let's give it a 1000 Hertz test signal. Yep, that's working. 200 Hertz. Won't sound too great because these speakers aren't bolted down or in any enclosure. They'll probably try and vibrate off the workbench or something. Yeah, doesn't sound too great because they're not bolted down, but it is producing the signal well. That's all good. Tomorrow by noon I will be headed off to college, so I won't have the resources to make the videos or much time at all to make videos, so thank you very much for bearing with me. maybe around Thanksgiving break or so in a few months I'll have some more videos up because I'll be back here in town and have access to my stuff. I might make a couple videos while I'm at college, but they probably won't be at the same level that I've been doing stuff here because I won't have the resources, space, or time. Once again, thank you very much for subscribing and sticking with me, and I'll be back as soon as I can.